And a good Tuesday evening to you. WFMZ meteorologist Dan Skeldon with you for this week's Tidal Flooding Talk. Brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. Joining me momentarily with my co-host Palma Shiles. With you on another Tuesday night in what has been, again, an easy winter so far in terms of winter weather. But we are tracking a storm for our Wednesday. It'll be, at least along the shore, it'll be a rain and wind maker. Not going to make any winter weather. Jersey and Delaware beaches, far North Jersey, interior PA, especially up in ski country in northern New England, we'll get some snow. But elsewhere, it is rain, and it's a quick hitting shot of some soaking rain centered on late tomorrow and tomorrow evening, and also some wind thrown in there as well. Feel free to post your questions and comments as we also look back at the anniversary of Jonas. Huge nor'easter in January of 2016, 7 years ago. Officially, this past weekend was the anniversary, although we are looking at the week of Jonas 7 years ago this week, which was a landmark and historical storm for the Jersey Shore, and really, especially for Cape May County into lower Delaware as well. So we'll talk about our storm tomorrow, which is not going to have a name, just going to be rain and wind at the shore. We'll look back a little bit at Jonas and take your questions and comments as well. Palma Shiles joining me now, co-host of Tidal Flooding Talk. Welcome on this, second to last Tuesday in January. By next Wednesday, it will be February 1st, and then February 2nd, Groundhog Day next Thursday. We'll learn if there's 6 more weeks of winter, although I think, Palma, everyone would love 6 more weeks of this winter because we haven't had one.
Right, yeah, it hasn't been too bad. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How are you tonight?
Pretty good. So, you said we're nearing on the anniversary of Jonas, right?
We are. Just this past weekend officially was the 7-year anniversary. 2016, and it was a significant storm. It produced a foot or more of snow on the South Jersey mainland, but it was more noted for the wind and the tidal flooding. And it was one of those storms, Palma, where it was supposed to be a major storm, but the wind was so strong, stronger than forecast, and it coincided with the high tide that it led to worse tidal flooding, Ocean City south, than we had from Sandy. So Sandy was worse, Atlantic City north, and Jonas was the benchmark storm for Cape May County and then down through Delaware, because that's where the strongest winds coincided with the high tide. So 2 very important parts of tidal flooding forecasting: how strong will the wind will be, and when is it in conjunction with high tide.
Now, what do you remember when you were forecasting or reporting on that storm? Did you have any surprises?
I mean, the burst of wind, we were expecting 40, 50, maybe 55 mile per hour gusts. But if my memory serves me right, they got up to like 70 or 75, which is almost hurricane strength. And that was just the extra push of water. We were forecasting major flooding, but it bumped it up to record flooding. So, I mean, no one should have been surprised that this is going to be a significant storm, and it was, but it went from major, which is very, very rare, to breaking records along the Cape May County shoreline. So it was one of those storms where we knew it was going to be really, really bad. In some cases, it ended up historic, like Stone Harbor and Avalon and parts of the Cape May County shoreline. Farther north, Atlantic City on north, it was windy, it was rainy, we had tidal flooding, it was significant, but you didn't have that 70-mile-an-hour burst of wind, so it wasn't as bad as it was down the Cape May County shoreline.
Right, and that's another reason why we say you should always be prepared before the storm.
That's right. And absolutely, especially when coastal flood advisories go up, you should say, okay, there'll be some flooding. My route to school or work may have to change a little bit. I may have to encounter some flooded roadways. And then when you hear coastal flood watches and warnings, your level of action should be even greater. And then when you hear major flooding, which is, again, is pretty rare, once every 5 to 10 years, usually we have something major, maybe not even that often. And sometimes it happens in spurts. But when you hear major flooding, then it's like, okay, my home may be impacted, not just like where you're driving, but your home may be impacted. So you do want to be, proactive and not reactive. So you want to prepare ahead for storms. You don't want to react once the storms are already here.
Right. And we've had guests on the show in the past that have taught us ways that we can do that. Securing any loose furniture outside. And also, if you want to take an even greater step in securing your home, flood vents and things like that.
Absolutely. And we do have a storm coming up tomorrow, and I don't think a whole lot of preparatory action is needed. It is going to be windy, but we've had some gusty winds often this January, so it's probably not much lawn furniture or stuff outside. But we do have wind advisories for the shore for tomorrow night for some 45, 50 mile per hour gusts. And we are going to have some heavy rain, so there could be some flooded roadways up and down the Barrier Islands tomorrow. Thankfully, though, the winds and the tides aren't lining up for any major or moderate or even minor tidal flooding along the South Jersey shore. Farther north, up towards Raritan Bay and Middlesex and Monmouth counties, we'll have some tidal flooding. However, we're going to have some heavy rain and gusty winds, and there'll probably be some flooding in the streets, even a rumble of thunder. I think we've had several days this January with thunderstorms and none with snow. That's the way that this winter has been. Thunder more likely than snow in the middle of winter. We could have a thunderstorm tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, I remember hearing thunder a couple times, and I'm like, is it just a truck rolling by? And it's thunder.
It's thunder in January, and it's not unheard of. It's rare. Just like down south, there's another major tornado outbreak today. And January tornadoes aren't unheard of, but we've had like 3 or 4 pretty significant outbreaks this January. Climate change and winters have changed, and it's not like that we're going to be snowless every winter, but this is an odd winter for a lot of the country. West Coast has been getting slammed, the South has been getting tons of tornadoes, and we've been lacking the snow. We've had the rain, we've had the wind, we've had the warmth, we've had the thunder. We're lacking the snow, and I think there is a 0 chance of any accumulating snow along the shore for at least the next 7 days. So that'll take us into February.
Now, when do you think the storm will be over? Is it a one-day storm tomorrow, or is it going to go into the Thursday?
It's even a half-a-day storm. I think like tomorrow morning it's largely dry. We see some rain develop tomorrow afternoon. It may not be till mid to late afternoon. So the wettest part of tomorrow along the shore anyway is like after 3 o'clock till maybe a little after midnight. So it's really the evening that's going to be the wettest part of tomorrow. Some heavy downpours, some gusty winds, maybe a rumble of thunder, and a little bit of flooding along the shore. You really won't be able to tell if it's tidal or just from the heavy rain and the poor drainage. But that's the type of storm we're having. If you want accumulating snow, you got to drive up to, the other end of the parkway, way up in North Jersey. You might get a couple of inches of accumulating snow. So this is a rainmaker and a pretty easy call for the Jersey and Delaware shore.
So you would rank it at like a mild flooding event?
I would say mild, and again, not really tidal flooding. It's going to be more just heavy rain. You get a quick inch or 2 of rain. You can't tell because it looks the same, right? If a street's flooded, you can't say, oh, that's tidal or that's fresh water. I guess the way you'd be able to tell is if you, and you should never do this, you sample the water. If it's salt water, all right, it's coming up to the tides. If it's fresh water, it's from the rain. But obviously there's no other way that we'll be able to tell. But there'll be some localized flooding up and down the shore tomorrow. But any tidal flooding will be limited up in Central or North Jersey, whatever you want to call it, up towards Middlesex and Monmouth counties and up past Sandy Hook where the water is going to funnel in. That's where we're going to have the issues. And this is a storm that's going up through the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, so it's not a nor'easter. It's going to be southeast winds tomorrow. So, it will not be a nor'easter. It's not going to be a Jonas or anything close to that. It's not going to turn into that. It is a rainy, windy go of it. Later tomorrow and early tomorrow night.
Okay. And for those just tuning in, you're watching Tidal Flooding Talk, brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. You can ask us any questions or just leave comments and we'll try to get to them. I see one so far. Is there any time windows for mild patterns in the foreseeable future?
Well, mild patterns, a lot of January has been mild. We really haven't had any cold patterns, right? We've had a cold day here or there. And I will say that, this weekend we're probably back on the mild side. If you're an Eagles fan, I am not. All right. But if you're an Eagles fan, it's going to be 50 something degrees in Philly at the Link on Sunday afternoon. For January football, 50 something degrees is not January like at all. So you could say this weekend is going to be yet another mild spell as well. It does get a little bit colder in early February, I think. February is normally the snowiest month of the year. We'll see. I don't see anything imminent, but we'll see. Yeah. And this January so far is one of the warmest ones ever. So 9 degrees warmer than average. That's pretty significant. We'll say too, not sure if you saw it, Palma, but there was a rocket launch tonight as well along the shore down at Wallops Island, Virginia. And you can see that. They launched a rocket. If skies were clear, you could actually see the rocket go up into space. They do that every once in a while. But I hear, I'm in a windowless studio, but I hear, a pretty good sighting of that tonight. Thankfully, they're doing it tonight and not tomorrow night because they wouldn't be able to do it with the rain and wind that is coming.
Right, I'm sure they have to reschedule those things all the time depending on the weather.
They do. Weather is very, it's a very weather dependent thing, launching rockets. But tonight the weather cooperated. Tomorrow night, the weather's not going to cooperate for much. Rainy, windy, go of it. And then it's mainly dry, but it stays windy the rest of the week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all looking pretty breezy, but it is dry into the upcoming weekend as well. Next chance of rain will be Sunday night. So again, no major tidal flooding, no real big tidal flooding in the forecast, but heavy rain tomorrow will cause some localized street flooding, some poor drainage flooding. And be aware some downpours are possible and a couple of rumbles of thunder possible as well. Next Tuesday when we talk to you, we will be on the cusp of February, and we will see what February holds in store.
Okay, sounds good. So tomorrow, just mild flooding, if anything. Turn around, don't drown. If there's any, streets flooded. I never risk it personally, but I have before and I regretted it.
Yeah,
so.
You see cars lost, and it's salt water eating away at your car. You don't want that. If it's tidal flooding or it's fresh water, getting into your car, you do not want that. So yeah, you don't want to drive through flooded roadways. And again, it's more poor drainage flooding tomorrow, but just be wary. Tomorrow night's just a good night with the rain and wind to not go out. If you have to, just use caution on the roads. At least they will be wet and they will not be icy or snowy or sleety or anything like that. No winter weather at the shore from this upcoming storm. When we visit you next Tuesday, we'll see if there is any winter weather in sight the first 7 to 10 days of February. And we're pushing on towards the start of spring, Palma. I think it's now about 55 days away. So it's been a pretty easy winter so far. 55 days to go. We'll see what the last 55 days of winter hold in store. The first 40 days of winter have been pretty easy.
I agree. All right. Well, this is Tidal Flooding Talk. We're here every Tuesday night around 7:30. Tune in, and we're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
All right. Have a great night. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Good night.